Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is part 3 of What If Deku had Goku's mindset, and as always, if you enjoy it, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff, and yeah, also check the links in the description for my Spotify and Discord if you want to go and join those. Seems like you guys are really enjoying this What If, and my take on this idea. And I hope you guys continue to enjoy it as we progress into the third part and also eventually the finale. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Hope you guys enjoy the video and let's get into it. Izuku Midori and Katsuki Bakugo are about to take on their mentor, All Might. And this fight right here is something that makes Izuku feel extremely excited. He had that fight with the Nomu and felt that he was extremely tested and he was overconfident going into it, allowing himself to get hurt in a way that he really shouldn't have. He may think that he's powerful, he may think that he's stronger than everyone else, but he needs to understand that progression is progression, and that's something Izuku now understands a lot more than ever before. And going into this fight against All Might, he would then try his best to basically work with Bakugo. But the thing is, Bakugo doesn't want to work with him. Bakugo is like pulling out hair, and he continues to kind of ignore Izuku. Everything he says, Izuku says to approach the fight this way, and Bakugo does the exact opposite. Izuku does then realize that he needs to truly strategize on the behalf of basically thinking that Bakugo is going to hold him back. And that's a messed up way of thinking about it, but that's the truth. Bakugo continues to kind of pull the opposite way when Izuku tries to make things more doable and make things better in their favor. And, well, let's just say Izuku is fully prepared to take down All Might himself. And he would get this chance. He would hands down get this chance because Izuku would go heads up with All Might and he would be standing right in front of him ready for a fight. Izuku would line up a punch and throw it directly at All Might and then kind of move out of the way and look for an uppercut. As he looks for this uppercut, All Might tries to basically get out of the way and dodge it, but Izuku's speed is pretty freaking damn impressive. And on top of that, with float, he's basically able to keep up with All Might in terms of just like any defensive responsibility that All Might tries to do. All Might would go on the offensive though pretty quickly, actually quicker than you could possibly imagine. And Izuku would immediately counter. And this is something that All Might doesn't understand just yet, and not to the degree he really should. But he would get countered and countered and countered again, and Izuku would be using a high level of One For All, closer to 75% at a very natural state. And he is, let's be honest, a lot stronger than All Might at this point. And maybe even stronger or close to the strength of someone like All Might in his prime. Now, he could be even beyond that, but we're not 100% sure because we're not in his prime anymore. He's not in his prime anymore. But Izuku is basically picking All Might apart, making it look extremely easy. All Might relies heavily on his raw strength, and Izuku is very defensively responsible in terms of trying to make sure that he doesn't get hurt in the long run, and he begins to absolutely put on a clinic. Izuku continues to show off the power that he has, but he's not showing it off because he's, wants to have everybody in shock and awe and make All Might look bad. No. He's trying to be responsible and not allow All Might to actually lay a crucial blow on him. This would lead to Bakugo exploding an explosion on All Might as well, and Bakugo is actually beginning to help Izuku. Izuku would overwhelm All Might with his volume of punches, and eventually All Might would slow down massively. But he would look for one solid punch to send Izuku flying, and as he does throw that punch, Izuku would wrap him in Black Whip and would then land a kick straight to his jaw, launching All Might toward a building. Izuku would then tell Bakugo that they should just escape now, that he has no intention of continuing this fight, because in all reality, he doesn't know if he can, truly knock out All Might for sure. He might have sent him flying toward a building, but it doesn't mean he's out cold. All Might is extremely durable, and we've seen on multiple occasions that he'll do whatever it takes to basically survive certain scenarios. So Izuku would then throw Black Whip out, slinging himself away as Bakugo would follow and they would escape. Of course, this would lead to All Might being actually decently injured. Nothing insane, nothing that he can't like heal off or anything like that. But Izuku did absolutely hurt All Might during this fight. But even with that said, he didn't actually hit his really bad wound. Izuku avoided it entirely, not wanting to hurt All Might more than he truly had to. But this is where All Might realizes that this Izuku Midoriya, his successor, he doesn't need his help anymore. He doesn't need All Might to basically guide him anymore. He doesn't need All Might to really protect him anymore. And All Might realizes that he really did pick the perfect person to be his successor. And he's already showing signs of being far stronger than him and far stronger than many heroes that even exist to this day. In which Izuku continues his training, and this training would continue as they would go to the forest training camp. The forest training camp would be pretty interesting, but Izuku would have no issues fighting off these Earth-like monsters that the WWhat Pussycats would sick them with, as they would chuck them, off the mountain. But of course, he wouldn't even be able, or he wouldn't even land hard on the ground, because he does have literally a quirk that allows him to just float and do stuff along those lines. Now, of course, this would lead to some basic training. Just training, working out, and just trying to get stronger. Izuku's goal throughout this time is to get to 100% of One For All. Yes, it is a kind of a hard thing to deal with, because the jump between 75 to 80 to 85 to 90, all of these things, as you get higher and higher, it gets a lot more difficult to really maintain his body. But eventually he would get a little bit higher. This is where he would start to plateau just a little bit, getting to about 80%, hoping that he can eventually get to 100%, but his body is just not ready for it just yet. Just not yet. And he continues to work out, work hard, and trying to expand his strength and also his knowledge of fighting. Even working with Aizawa a little bit on kind of different ways he could utilize Black Whip and different ways he could actually utilize his fighting styles, which of course is massively beneficial for Izuku Midoriya, especially because his hand-to-hand combat skills are at a very, very, very high level already, and adding Aizawa's kind of input and fighting strategies will always be beneficial. Same thing with working with someone by the name of Tiger, who is part of the WWhat Pussycats. Now, this would eventually lead up to a villain invasion, in which the villain invasion is directed toward Bakugo. They're trying to actually capture Bakugo, believing that he has a chance at swaying to the villain's side, and he would be a powerful recruit in the long run. But of course, Bakugo isn't messing around here, and he does hurt quite a bit of these villains that are trying to basically get him. But Izuku is currently dealing with his own issue, as he goes to see what is happening with Koda and going to see if he's safe and secure. He runs onto the mountain and he sees that Muscular is currently there, threatening the child, and Izuku does not take this lightly. He makes a very, very clear statement that he should leave now, that if he wants to, just leave them alone, and he wants to get out of here without a scratch, he better just leave right now and surrender himself later. But Muscular would say that he's heard that this kid is pretty damn strong, and he wants to see what he's all about. In which Izuku shakes his head and says that if he wants to see how powerful he is, then he should come now. He should fight and get ready, because he's going to get a beating. In which Izuku is dead serious this time around, taking on this kind of very protective mindset, because this is somebody who is a child, somebody who Izuku is, laughably fond of, and he's just a kid. And he knows that this kid had no way of protecting himself, and he's going to show Muscular the error of his ways, in which he lines up to fight him, and Muscular tries to throw a punch, but he would duck under it, or Izuku would duck under it, landing a clean punch to his stomach as he would work the body and then go upstairs as he kicks him right in the head. Izuku would immediately go on the offensive, flying at Muscular basically, and he would begin to wrap him in Black Whip and begins to land crucial blows and punches to his face, stomach, body, and legs, and just in general hitting him all around, leading him to trying to ramp up his own strength, or, you know, Muscular trying to ramp up his own strength, but he unfortunately cannot in time to really make it matter. Izuku's already on the offensive so much that Muscular is able to ramp it up, but his strength is so depleted at this point that he's just going to fall to Izuku quicker than you could possibly imagine. And with 80% of One For All and utilizing at such an efficient and high rate, and also having float and Black Whip at his disposal, well, he continues to show why he is the future of this, well, hero society. And he's the future of everything that's going on. And Izuku Midoriya, after defeating Muscular, would help out Kota get back to safety. After he is basically safe, Izuku would help his other classmates, defeating other villains and capturing them as well. But before you know it, there was a portal opening up and they were dragging Bakugo away. Izuku would wrap Shigaraki and Bakugo in Black Whip and yank them from the portal. Kurogiri is unable to actually reach him once again, and Bakugo would explode Shigaraki on the face with his explosion quirk, and with one foul swoop, he's able to basically subdue Shigaraki and knock him out cold. Kurogiri tries to open a portal to save him, but Izuku refuses to allow him to actually get through that portal, getting away to the point where Kurogiri can't actually get to Shigaraki. Shigaraki would be subdued, and Kurogiri would be out of luck in terms of trying to save Shigaraki. Now, this would lead him to doing a bit of a final kind of gambit for Shigaraki's sake, and that is to bring All For One to this place right now, in which, as he does, Izuku would be standing there in front of All For One, and All For One would tell him that he is a formidable successor for the One For All quirk, but this is where he will fall. He will fall just like the rest of them. He will die just like them all. Every single successor that ever existed for the One For All quirk, he will be with them before you know it. In which Izuku would stand there and he would tell him that he has no idea of what he's doing and he will protect his friends at all costs. In which Bakugo would stand next to him and tell him that they're going to stop him and stop this person in his tracks. In which Izuku would dash forward fighting All For One, and you could tell that there is a bit of a strength difference, but All For One thinks that he has the upper hand. But Izuku would dodge black tendrils as he would fly all throughout the air and then eventually land a crucial blow to the jaw of All For One, eventually leading him to tying him up with Black Whip and then kicking him straight toward the ground once again. Aizawa would be currently in the moment trying to actually get a hold of All Might, trying to get All Might to come to the forest training camp. And as this fight is going on, Bakugo is trying his best to help Izuku as much as possible. All these no moves and other things are keeping the other students massively occupied, and Bakugo and Izuku are the only ones that are currently not occupied to fight All For One. But Izuku is worried about Bakugo. He's not sure if Bakugo is really going to be able to hang in there with one of the strongest villains ever, and he's worried that he'll have to try and save him if he gets caught off guard, in which his worries would come to fruition because immediately black tendrils would go by Izuku going toward Bakugo. As he would try and move Bakugo out of the way, he would push him out of the way and get hit and scraped, and also part of his body would get punctured by the black tendrils. Izuku would then grab All For One once again with Black Whip, telling him that he's going to have to do a lot better than that to kill him, as he would slam his feet into All For One's face, shattering the mask that he has on him. Izuku would begin an onslaught on All For One while he's completely subdued and tied up. Izuku would be angered by the All For One's attack, but on top of that, he would be excited. It's weird. Izuku can feel his body rush with excitement, and he could feel that he is excited and happy that he's fighting someone so powerful. All For One would think he's a psychopath. Why is he smiling? Why is he happy? Why is he going through these kind of states of positivity when he's fighting for his life? In which Izuku tells him that he's not necessarily fighting for his life, but fighting is his life. He would then land one more crucial blow to All Might's stomach, or All For One's stomach, excuse me, and would send him spiraling toward a mountain. And as he's getting basically pushed toward that mountain, All For One would stop in his own tracks, and he would tell him that he's going to power up and store all this power into one singular arm, and he's going to take him out for good. He tells him that the successor of All Might will die here today, in which he would store all this power in his right arm, and he would go to land one singular punch on Izuku, but out of nowhere, Izuku can hear something from the sky, and one thing can be said. Not one word, but one phrase. United States of Smash, landing directly on the face of All For One. Izuku would follow up once again with a kick straight to the gut of him, sending him spiraling toward the ground, and All For One would be defeated, laying there on the ground, out cold entirely, with his successor tied up, captured, and unable to leave. And on top of that, the other heroes were able to actually get a tab on where Kurogiri is, and it seems like they're going to be able to track him pretty damn quickly, because that is the last key to stopping basically what is happening with the League of Villains. And eventually the heroes, after the forest training camp and stuff like that, and obviously the kids moving into the dorms, they would actually find Kurogiri and be able to capture him with the help of Aizawa, and they begin interrogating him and figuring out who he truly is. But that doesn't really affect Izuku, at least at this moment, not in terms of his storyline and his line of what's happening. But what he's preparing for is the Provisional Hero License exam. After defeating All For One and after all of that happening, everything was kind of brought under wraps. No one really talked about it. The news stations didn't catch it, and luckily enough they didn't, because a lot of things would have changed for Izuku, and he wouldn't have been able to be just a normal kid anymore. So Izuku would continue progressing, or kind of progressing with his hero license, or his Provisional Hero License, in which he would have no trouble at all doing the first portion of it. The first portion would be kind of like tagging people and turning off their lights that they have strapped to their chests, and basically doing that would defeat them, and they only need a couple eliminations, and once they have those couple of eliminations, they would then pass on to the next portion of the exam, which he would do with flying colors, like very easily defeat what he needs to defeat, and this would eventually lead him to the rescue portion of this exam. The rescue portion, on the other hand, though, has a lot of things going for it. Izuku helps with kind of setting up base camp, and then helps with kind of running around and flying around and learning about different people, and bringing it back to base camp, learning of where these people are either in trouble or hurting or kind of need help or in need of help, in which Izuku is able to delegate different jobs to different people, and basically helping others find what they need to find, in which this would be perfect for Izuku. And also what else would be perfect is his potential fight with Gang Orca. Gang Orca would be a pretty interesting fight for him, because he would be excited to take on someone like him, a pro hero that is very powerful and is no joke. But the thing is, Gang Orca isn't as strong as Izuku, so when the villains would come out and it would be time to basically take down Gang Orca and or the fake villains, Izuku would see Todoroki and Inasa actually kind of clashing with their own abilities. Izuku would tell them to leave it to him, and that they're not truly working together properly, and if they weren't going to work together properly, they shouldn't even be fighting next to each other. That they need to figure it out ASAP, or they're going to truly lose a ton from this experience. In which Izuku would come slamming down, as he would then kick Gang Orca, as he would see this wind and fire then spiral around them both. Izuku would smile as he says that it seems like this is the perfect chance for him to get his one-on-one fight. Gang Orca then saying that he knows the kid. The kid's overconfident. The kid, he doesn't ask for help normally, so why ask for help now? He doesn't need this fire and wind, right? In which Izuku shrugs his shoulders and says that he now understands that being a hero is more than just finding that thrill of a fight. He needs to really understand how to properly work with other people and how to properly approach scenarios. And this scenario, well, will eliminate or kind of, deter a strong villain from hurting anyone else. Izuku would then put the hands on Gang Orca, and Gang Orca would fall short in terms of how strong he truly is in comparison to Izuku. Izuku would, though, lower his power just a little bit to have a decently fun fight, but still, he would be able to beat Gang Orca, and it would lead to him capturing him, and eventually the sirens would sound, and everybody would stop fighting, and everybody would be told that the Provisional Hero License exam is over. Everybody would be kind of in awe about what Izuku was able to do, and it's pretty obvious that these other classes and these other schools are pretty excited to basically see Izuku do what he's doing, because they saw the UA Sports Festival and they knew how strong he was, but seeing it in first person and seeing it in person in general is kind of just making them completely awe-inspired. The fact that Izuku is able to do the things he does is just incredible. It's amazing. But at the same time, they can't be too fanboy or fangirl type of people, but still, they can still enjoy what they saw. In which this would eventually lead them to getting their Provisional Hero License, which, he would get his, but some other people wouldn't actually get theirs, failing, unfortunately, early on, and Izuku would finally be excited about getting his chance about being a true hero, at least a hero in terms of the law sense, because he wasn't actually, in a legal hero for a while, and now he somewhat is, and which he's excited. And the first thing he hears about when he gets into one of his classes with Aizawa is that there's going to be a work study, in which, of course, the big three themselves are going to explain and tell what the work study is all about, in which Izuku is thrilled about this, hearing it from Mirio, but of course, you have the funny interaction with Nejire and also Tamaki. But Mirio would tell them all that they're going to all fight, that Mirio is going to fight every single one of them at once, in which when they all go out to the gym, well, Izuku is excited for this, but this is training. He doesn't want to fight him all at once, so he literally stands there and waits for all of his classmates to basically lose. Now, this isn't like your normal, typical, villain scenario, so he doesn't really see an issue with him doing this, in which Aizawa thought that he probably would end up doing this, and a fight with him and Mirio one-on-one would be an interesting thing to watch, so Aizawa watches closely as Izuku and Mirio would clash. And yes, the permeation quirk that Mirio has is very, very difficult to actually get around, and it's actually really hard to judge. And eventually he would come out of nowhere and almost punch Izuku in the face, but in a matter of a split second, he would dodge it. It's as if something told him that the punch was coming before it actually happened. Izuku awakening another quirk known as Danger Sense, something he didn't even know existed really within him, but he was able to now dodge even a Mirio that he literally doesn't see coming. And he's able to parry, dodge, and then find an opening, eventually getting an opportunity to lay a punch on Mirio's chest, slamming him into the ground. Mirio would then wave off and call it quits, saying that he doesn't want to fight the kid to the death, in which Izuku says that he was never going to fight him to the death, just until he was probably incapacitated, in which Mirio would laugh a little bit, asking if he's kidding, but Izuku says that, yeah, sure, I was kidding, that's what I was doing, in which, of course, Mirio would eventually talk to the kid about going to Sir Night-Eye, and that he actually really wants to work with him, that he's excited to basically work with Izuku, but don't tell Sir Night-Eye that he said that. But it seems like he holds Izuku in very high regards, in which that's exactly what Sir Night-Eye tells him when they get there. Sir Night-Eye would tell him that it seems that he's very good at being the successor of All Might. And on top of that, he cleaned up some of his, let's just say, idiot parts of his personality. And Izuku does say that he apologizes that he feels that way, but he still holds on to the want of fighting and still enjoys it so much. But he does understand that being a hero is beyond just fighting, and he understands that risking other people's lives is a big, let's just say, no. And he still would admit that he gets caught up sometimes in the enjoyment of the fights, depending on who he's fighting. But at the same time, he does get pretty quick to finishing off villains when he notices that the fight needs to end there and now. And trust me, he knows sometimes that villains like All For One can't be messed with and can't be just allowed to leave and can't be just allowed to just do their own thing. Which Izuku in this world, yes, he has Goku's mindset, but in this world, it has taught him that quite a bit, because it is not your normal, typical, I'm going to fight bad guys. It is literally a world full of actual people who are deemed as heroes, in which that is something that he really takes to heart, even if he really does love fighting to a large degree. Which Sir Night-Eye is happy to hear that Izuku has made such progress, not only in his strength, but also in his mindset, but also the fact that he needs some help taking down and actually defeating, well, Overhaul himself, the leader of the Shihazaikai. Overhaul is a very strong foe, but someone who really is good at covering up his tracks. But it seems like he's not too good at it, because eventually Izuku and Mirio would be on a patrol and they would bump directly into him, and there would be somebody with him, Eri, a little girl, and Izuku sees this and immediately is overwhelmed with emotion, thinking that the little girl is getting abused, getting hurt, being held hostage, all of these things rushing through his head. And as he looks back up at Overhaul, anger would go threading through his body, and he would begin thinking about the potential of what would have happened if he wasn't there to save Koda, what that monster would have done if he wasn't there to save Koda. And he will never decide to go the opposite direction. Izuku thinks to himself that if he wasn't there to save Koda, that Koda would have died. So what happens if he allows Overhaul to leave now? Would Eri die? Would this little girl, who seems so innocent, seems so helpless, will she die? That's what he's thinking about, and he refuses to allow something like that to happen, and he's never going to allow it to happen, in which he would immediately move Eri out of the way, putting her kind of out of harm's way, and Mirio would realize quickly that they would have no choice but to approach this in a fight. They would have no choice into actually battling Overhaul and hopefully minimizing damage in the city. So the fight between Izuku Midoriya, Overhaul, and also Mirio Togata is about to begin. Mirio and Deku versus Overhaul is about to start, and about to be a, well, hopefully not catastrophic event for the city that is currently nearby. But that is going to have to wait for the next part, or the final part, of What If Deku Had Goku's Mindset. And if you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Hope you guys enjoyed, and hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.